What's the deal? We back in here with another spirit-filled Sabbath Bible study. With the gathering. Today we got our brother Keon leading us in James. This is I personally never read James, so this is gonna be pretty good for me. And so we're just gonna let the spirit lead. We're gonna go through it. As y'all watching these videos, again, it's important that y'all hit the like button, hit the share button, spread it out through the algorithms, because these are the conversations that need to be had in the coming days. That it's gonna be a famine of the word, and a lot of people need this spiritual edification. So if you're getting edified by these videos, don't be a ball hog. Spread the wealth, and we greatly appreciate it. Without further ado, we pretty much is gonna jump right in. Like said, Brother Keon gonna be reading James, leading this service, and we just gonna go by the Spirit. So where we opening up at?
We open up the letter of James, book of James,
chapter 1.
Yep, chapter 1. Yep, I'm gonna be reading from English Standard Version.
All right, bet. Let me go. Let me see where we.
Let me know y'all got the page.
Bet.
I'm there.
That is. Yeah, here we go. 16.
All right, I'll start us off. The letter of James. Greetings.
One sec. James ain't that long.
No, it's a short read. It's only 5 books, 5 chapters.
Oh, okay. Sure.
It's probably like a page. It might be a page or a page and a half, but it's not big your Bible is.
Oh, that's straight. All right, I'm ready when you are.
All right. The letter of James. Greeting. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes in dispersion. Greetings. Testings of faith is the heading. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives grace generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is double-minded, unstable in all his ways.
Hello. So off rip, so I definitely have quoted James. So all right, boom, off rip. That's one of the bangers right there.
Uh-huh.
I think we just said this in our service.
A previous not the last one before that. You brought it up, and that's what I want to read it. Give it a read.
Right, my brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations. And no. Here we go. But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. It's just talking about being grateful being grateful for every day you wake up, because again, we've been talking about this recently. No matter what you're going through, things could always be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So, you wanna always be grateful for the situation you in, whether it may not be your ideal situation. Like I said, if you got legs to walk, you could not have legs to walk. You got eyes to see, you could be blind. So, it's a lot of peace once you come to grips with that. Once you come to grips with, the things that the Most High has given you, you can easily find yourself, living a lifestyle where you have a lot of joy. And I remember one time vividly where I just was, this was crazy too in hindsight.
Mhm.
I was in my old apartment in my old house, right? And I was in there, and I don't know why I just felt bad. Like I felt like I wanted to be somewhere else. Like I wanted to be in a different scenario.
Mhm.
And then I instantly kind of realized, not instantly, it took a while. I sat there kind of sulking for a little bit. And then I looked up and realized I'm like, wait a second. I'm tripping. I'm like, I got my own place right now. I'm in my own. I got a bed right here that I'm sitting in. I got, this is obviously the worldly part, but I'm like, I got this big old TV right here in front of me. I got, a roof over my head. Basically, I'm clothed. Like it's some people that ain't got none of this stuff. It's like, what am I sitting here sad about?
You ain't at rock bottom.
Right. And then, I instantly started, feeling good again. And that's how I realized at that moment, that's when I realized, all of that stuff is really the devil. Cause it's like, again, things could always be way worse. And I also wanted to highlight, verse 5 where it say, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally and um unbrideth not, and it shall be given to him. That's a pivotal thing too, because a lot of people, the scriptures also say our people are destroyed due to a lack of knowledge, and we're destroyed due to a lack of knowledge, and it's unfortunate because the Most High is willingly, liberally giving out knowledge. Like he's not gonna hide information from you. Anybody who seek his face, who seek the truth, who seek information, who want to take the road less traveled and break out the matrix, it's like he's always willing to do that for us. And that's one of the major things. I feel like a lot of people who come into truth, just kind of have that thing in common where it's like they had a moment where it was like, hold on, the world is really full of lies. Like, what's the truth? Like, what's going on here? Like, they lying about the
100%.
time, the calendars. They lying about these holidays. They lying about our nationality, our identity. Like, it's so many lies. Right? It's like, what's going? What is this? And then then you take your journey of trying to find truth. I'm gonna tell this other story real quick because I remember vividly the day where I not necessarily gave my life to Christ and the Most High, but when I started going down the rabbit hole of trying to seek truth, and I remember it was a night. This was like 2020, I believe, around COVID time, and I was on Twitter, and they was talking about Google basically for the next couple hours they was taking the restrictions off where you could pretty much look anything up and they wouldn't hide it.
Hmm.
And I seen that on Twitter and I went through this thread of the different things people were searching and getting like clear answers on. And it was a lot of like Hollywood secrets and all of that type of stuff for the elites. And then I'm just like, I remember almost being like kind of scared because I'm like, it's really all of this evil stuff going on. I'm like, the world is really this sick.
Yeah, the stuff you see in movies.
Right. And it was like, I remember my cousins used to always be on that, telling me different things, different conspiracy theories, and I just be like, y'all crazy, man. Like, y'all tweaking. And then even I was one of those people that was also like, well, why does this information even matter? If it's true, like, who cares? We can't do nothing about it. Woo, woo, woo. And then, but I remember that night, and I sat there. It was like, this was late at night, and I just sat in that rabbit hole for hours.
You was a bot.
Wow.
The NPC.
Man, I was a bot. But I sat there for hours just looking at all of this stuff, all these conspiracy theories, quote unquote. And I just was like, bruh, like everything is just evil and lies. And from there I just started seeking the truth. And that's kind of when I got into spirituality and all of that stuff, which eventually led me to, the Bible. But that was the starting point though. And I feel like everybody had their moment where it was like trying to seek the truth, like, man, what's really going on?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we left off on James verse 8.
Yep.
He is double-minded, man, unstable in all his ways. Let the lowly brother boast in his exaltation, and the rich in his humiliation, because like a flower of the grass, he will pass away. For the sun rises while it, with its scorching heat, withers the grass. If flowers fall and its beauties perishes, so also will the rich man fade away in the midst of his pursuit. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Let no one say, when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death.
Pause.
Yeah, I was about to say, comment on that.
Shout out to Friday Night Lights, man. Friday Night Vibes, I mean.
Now that's lustful entities.
Lustful entities, yeah.
But yeah, man, that verse powerful, and the verse about the first verses, I don't remember which one. I think it was like 8 or 9 where it was talking about
the double-minded.
The double-minded, yeah. You can't
the double-minded and the rich in a pursuit, falling into, when people love the money, like the root of all the love of money is the root of all evil, and how people fall into destruction chasing that, right? But I want to talk about the verse with sin and how it comes forth, because it's funny. I think a lot of people do get that mixed up when people say, like, all right, well, God is in control of everything, and God allows Satan to tempt us. That's not God tempting us. He uses the adversary. It's just like how he used Pharaoh. Like, he uses the adversary, the devil, because that's what his purpose is. He uses him to do that, because that's the devil's works. So, and it's just also it also just shows the true nature of what the sin is, like how it's really formed in our minds, based through desire, through the desires of what we personally want. And then when we act on those things, it's like a seed a seed that's sprouting, and when it blooms, like I said, it leads to the death, that represents physical death as well as spiritual death. And spiritual death is more so like, people being in situations, people walking around like zombies, bots, they can't connect. They can't inherit the spirit, because The Holy Spirit can't live within a filthy vessel.
Yeah, I think about when we talk about the double minded, I think about just like the concept of when you fight in the flesh and how and really how unstable you feel when you fight in the flesh and you say, all right, I ain't about to do this no more. I'm not, or I'm done with that. And then you end up doing it like very like just on a personal tip, like the smoking thing. I remember when I was like, all right, this my last time, last blunt. Then I do it again. And then as I'm doing it, it'll just be like, you feel crazy in those moments to the point where you really can't even enjoy the high because it's like you know what you said and now you know what you're doing, and that unstableness bleeds over into a lot of other things like that bleeds over into how you deal with other people or your relationships and different things like that. You can kind of just feel the franticness, the uneasiness, the the that feeling where you just kind of doing stuff.
Just going
And
through emotions now.
You be balanced.
yeah,
Like yeah,
yeah,
the
your
part of the word,
balance is
like the word says, it's I forgot where exactly it says this, but it says the flesh is weak, but the spirit is able. Your flesh be battling your spirit, so you may have the desire to want to do right and to make that change, but you have to submit completely to the spirit. You know, if you don't do that, then your flesh is gonna overtake. That's why you may, I done the same thing. Oh, I'm finna stop doing this. This is my last time. But if I don't take the action to actually make that come true, then I'm just gonna keep falling to my flesh because it's weak. So it's like you actually have to coincide in the mindset of I'm submitting to this righteous spirit over this demon that's tempting me.
Can you
Because
can you can you go over some things that like the viewers and the listeners out there might need in order to strengthen their spirit? Like what can we do for that?
I would say fasting and prayer. Like the Messiah says, some demons can only be cast out by fasting and prayer. And I think it's something that's underrated or overlooked. We have to fast. It's required that we fast. Of course, the same thing with prayer. And the word says to be a living sacrifice. So we had to make sacrifices. We had to become a new creature and show and be an example of Christ in our lives. And once you do that, you will be strengthened. Once you make those sacrifices, okay, I'm finna purge this flesh. I'm finna go without. The Most High recognizes that, and He blesses you. And like the word says, and do those things. Don't do it to appease men, or to be eye candy, or to be like, oh yeah, look, I'm fasting. Or look, God love me, or it says do those things in private, and the Father will bless you openly. So you have to take the action, to actually purge this flesh, because we are in a war with our flesh. We have to suffer. We have to grow in our spirit to the point where we are, resisting the carnalness of our beings. So I say, yeah, fasting and prayer, and getting in the word. That's very important. It's don't quench the spirit. Invite the spirit, entertain the spirit, seek the face of the Father, and you can do that by reading the word, by praying, by fasting. Through all those things, you are acknowledging the Most High. So yeah.
I wanted
Thank
to
you.
also when it go on to say go on and pretty much validate that because it's like once you once you actually say you're gonna do something and then you do it, it went on to say For what it say? For the sun is no sooner risen with a burning heat, but is withering the grass, the flower thereof falleth in the grace of the fashion. It says, blessed is the man. Okay, it says, blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord had promised to them that love him. So is pretty much just like when you say you're gonna do something, you do what's necessary and you do it. And once you do it, the Most High see that. And I think that's where that's where I know like the Most High knows our hearts and he knows like the things that we wrestling with because or every time you sit up there and you identify something as a problem for you and you say, all right, I'm putting this away, it's a sacrifice.
Exactly.
And once you sacrifice it, that's where the Most High does his part and he blesses you because you sacrificing it for him. And he knows it's something that you enjoy. He knows it's something that's a stronghold on you. So it's like him seeing you do that, it's only right that you get your reward for it. It's like law of averages, everything got to balance out. So you get rid of this negative, you get a positive. And whether you sacrificing a person, you sacrificing, like said, a stronghold, like an addiction, it's is that's just how it worked. And that's kind of like how it's always been. Even when you look at, in the past where, they were sacrificing animals to cover their sins, or Christ being the ultimate sacrifice to give us the ultimate, grace. It just, that's how it's always been. So that's it's pivotal to actually put these things away. Once you identify something as a problem and you put it away and you actually stick to it, that's how you get to the next level. Because otherwise, you pretty much just gonna be running in circles. You're gonna be people wonder why this certain thing hasn't happened for me yet? Why this ain't happened? Why it's like you ain't purging the flesh. You ain't making no sacrifices. You just want to have it. You just want to have everything your way. You want to be able to do this, do that, and still be vindicated. So, yeah, definitely important.
Thank you, brother, for sharing y'all testimonies and y'all views on things, and hoping to, understand the verses, and break it down more.
Yeah.
We left off James chapter 1, verse 16. Do not be deceived, my beloved brothers. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. Of his own will he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we should be kind of his first fruits of his creatures. The hitter for the next one is hearing and doing the word. Verse 19. Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of the man does not produce the righteousness of God. Therefore, put away all furtherlessness and rampant wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls.
I wanted to go back to verse 18 where it says of his own will begat he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. And that goes into like I'll highlight that just because it's talking about the resurrection, you know, and along with becoming a new creature, we straight up aliens on this planet. We straight up foreign. We're a whole different breed of people, and it's like we're surrounded by things that are foreign to us. All the wickedness, all the spirits that be on people, the dysfunction, and how the Father really requires us to operate on an elevated level. And man, it's understanding that is very powerful. And that's why you have to do things differently. That's why you have to purge the flesh, because everybody else are boasting in the flesh. Everybody else are, it's just pleasing their flesh. Everybody moving how they want to move. Nobody is considerate of others. People are selfish. People who are just straight up wicked. People people will use you, if you let them. People will just deceive you just to deceive you. So it's like understanding and applying the word is 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 vital for all of us. And praise the Most High that we have the understanding. Yeah, man.
I wanted to look at where it say it says everybody, well, every man, basically every person has to be pretty much slow to speak, and that'll save a lot of people in a lot of situations. People just a lot of people want to get their points across, and they want to debate and go back and forth and all of this other type of stuff. And the scriptures say clear as day. You want to just listen and then speak, because when you operating out of anger or straight emotion, it's just never going to pretty much be, it's rarely ever beneficial for you. So I just wanted to point that out for sure, 'cause that's just something anybody can take away. Like, you got a situation, you being persecuted, whatever it is, slow to speak. And I catch myself in moments where I know I'm being slow to speak, because it's like you I can almost feel the awkwardness as somebody is talking, and then I'm not saying nothing back. And they, even if they finish talking, it'll still be like a brief pause before I end up saying what I end up saying. But it's a lot of strength in that, not being not being snappy with a person.
So. To piggyback, my advice I would give, I just want to say, it's about humility, bruh. And I think one of the biggest sins, like, to man, we got lust, we got wrath, we got covetousness, all this type of stuff. But I think one of the biggest sins, especially the men in particular, and oh man, I ain't even gonna say men in particular, men and women these days, it's the pride, bro. It's the pride. Like, a lot of the times, people like I said, when they get into a situation with somebody, they think talking more is going to get through and equate to understanding on the recipient's end. But it's about, like I said, it's about humility and being able to listen, because the power in listening. Why the Bible say be slower to speak than to speak is because when you listen, somebody can say one phrase or one sentence to you, and they can reveal and expose so much about their intentions when you just sit there and think about what they just said. Like, and I've been through situations like this countless times, where I have a conversation with somebody, and I'll sit up there and I just be listening. And then once I'm done with the conversation, I just think about everything that they said, and I'd be like, man, this person really just exposed their intentions through their words. Our words betray us. Every time our words betray us, and people don't understand that. They think the more that they talk, the more that they tricking somebody and manipulating somebody. That work on low levels. Yeah. But yeah, and this is coming from somebody. I can be long winded at times. So yeah, man. I think it's a thing about getting our egos in check. Like I've been saying this recently, as I've been walking through life, we gotta bend our knee, bro. We gotta kneel to Christ like it is what it is. You know, it's we're not running the program, bro. But yeah,
The,
that's
the
my take.
scriptures say what comes out of a person's mouth is what's in their heart. So it's gonna have to, like you said, your words is gonna have to expose you. And like if you sit up there and just take it in, even while you disagreeing with a person, you listen enough, you'll get all of the information that you need. And like you said, in a lot of cases, you look back, you reflect, and you see you can even peep a lot of things in the moment, and that stuff will fuel you to even not even want to continue to engage because now you seeing where that person's heart is, and if you can measure the levels of pride on a person and be like, okay, this person ain't even listening, or they only listening to my response so they can respond. But imagine if you was that person and you missing all of the cues that you need to hear because you so eager to get a response off, you missed that this person just revealed they whole plot, they whole identity to you. So, all praises for having the discernment. And
Um,
if you lack in discernment in that area, we just read that the Most High gives wisdom liberally. So,
Those without doubt.
just pray for it.
Matthew chapter 23, verse verse 12. It says, and whoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. Just wanted to read that.
Hey, it's powerful. You got to think about that too. The Most High sees all. He knows that
Yes.
that person is sitting up there yapping and not saying any kind of truth, or he know when a person is lying through their teeth. And if he see you sit up there, you got the you got the strength to just endure, and you just walk away from those situations, you'll be exalted. We was talking about sacrificing. That's a sacrifice. You sacrifice
Your pride.
your pride in that moment, and that's how you get your rewards. It's about the sacrifices you make.
We left off on verse 22, not mistaken. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in the mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away, and at once forgets what he looks like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doings. If anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceive his heart, this person's religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world.
One sec. I want to. So hold on. It said, but who so
Doers of
looking into the perfect law of liberty, and continue with therein. He being not a forgotten hero, but a doer of the word. If any man, we talked about this last week, I believe. Connect where we was talking about the Most High didn't even care about they sacrifices and all of that stuff no more at a point because it was just like that's religion. Like when you do religion is the concept of when you just do something religiously, right?
Traditions.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just
So
because of the habit.
pure religion and undefiled before God and Father. This to the visit. Yep. So if any man among you seem to be religious and brideth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man religion is vain. So
Dang, I just thought about that. The word religion just means tradition, and that's why we go and say the Bible is not a religious book. It's really a historical book and a manuscript and and it's like a textbook of how to live because the funny thing is about how God he not a respecter of persons, and also he not a respecter of just traditions. Like he be God. It's so many instances in the Bible where God then flipped the script and said, okay, with Jacob and Esau, everybody at that time they was like, okay, the firstborn get the birthright. And he flipped it on his script and said, "Nah, we're not going with this traditional belief. I'm gonna make the second born have the birthright."
yep.
I say it's not a book about religion, but a book ultimately about relationships and pertaining to your relationship with the Most High. You know, your relationship with others. Like Christ said, he said the two great commandments. I'm gonna read this powerful scripture. Yeah, let me see. The two great commandments. Let me see where it is. It's in Matthew somewhere.
Take your time.
Here it is. And check this out, bro. This is powerful because of what he said after he listed them. This is Matthew 22, verse 36 through 40. Master, which is the great commandment in the law? And Christ said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. That last verse is so powerful. It says, on these two commandments hang all the law. So all of the law, these two commandments hang on. And it says all the prophets. So all the patriarchs of the Bible, all the prophets. So if you understand that, you understand that it's about your relationships with the Most High, and your relationships, how you interact with others as yourselves, like the word says you're supposed to. You're supposed to love others as you love yourself, to the point where you're not going to do them wrong. You love somebody as yourself, you're not going to steal from them. You love somebody as yourself, you're not going to be envious towards them. You're not going to bear false witness on them, because you're going to love them as you love yourself. You wouldn't do those things to yourself. And the requirement of loving God with all your mind, your heart, your soul, whatever God say do, you're going to do it. He say go there, you're going to go there. He say stop doing that, you're going to stop doing that. And the Bible just gives a deep dive into the specifics on how to love God and the things that he loves, the things that he hates, and that's the purpose of the law, being the schoolmaster, but ultimately us being a vessel of the Spirit is us allowing and humbling ourselves to be the people, to be the man that God created us to be, so that our relationship with the Father can be pure, so that our relationship with the Father can be of peace and not of war, so that we won't be enemies of the one who created us, just as the adversary is. And that's the big thing. It's like, instead of people listening to the Spirit that's trying to grow us, that's trying to help us get to that, most people listening to demons that do the opposite of that, making you an enemy of God, making you prideful, making you love the pleasures of this world, love the pleasures of the flesh more than lovers of God, And man, it's a powerful thing to understand. But like I said, on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. That's the order of Melchizedek. So whatever situation you in, God is going to judge you if you're loving him with all your mind, your heart, and your soul. Your
Mhm.
So like, and I mentioned slaves because they couldn't do a lot of things. Like they had no choice if they could work on the Sabbath. You get what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
is the Most High just gonna condemn them because of that, or is He gonna judge them based off if they loved Him with all their mind, their heart, their soul, and how if they love others as they love themselves? So that makes it simpler, and that's how we can understand how the Most High loved. How could He love and reward people that didn't even have the law? Because He judged them off of that. That's how He blessed Abraham. Because Abraham loved the Most High with all his mind, his heart, his soul, to the point where in different situations, I always go to the situation of where he had he
Offer his
had
son.
he what'd you say?
I say you have to offer his son for sacrifice.
Yeah, even that. Or I even go to where his father was building the idols. He burnt the idols.
Mhm.
So it's like that's how we had to operate. And Christ showed that. That's why Christ did things to trigger the Pharisees, you know. Whether it be, him doing work on the Sabbath day. He was doing good on the Sabbath day though. So you can't condemn somebody for doing good on the Sabbath day. Or just like his apostles, they didn't wash their hands before they ate the meal. They tried to get Christ because his apostles didn't do that. And he was like, what goes in a man doesn't defile a man, but what comes out, like the words he say, his intent of his heart. And a lot of people like to, use that to try to say that it's okay to eat unclean, and
Right,
but
I seen that.
check that out. If you love God with all your mind, your heart, your soul, you're not gonna try to break His dietary law.
Right,
You're gonna do
especially when it's not. Ain't nobody forcing you to do it. It's just kind of
exactly,
like it's just something you want to do.
exactly. So it's like that's what it's about, operating in terms of whatever you can do, you're gonna do it, and even like and having faith. Like even I remember we were talking about this earlier. Like if we out in the woods and we see a pig, we starving, we ain't eating days. We not gonna eat that pig, even though that could look like some food. We gonna have faith in the Most High that He'll send us a lamb. You get what I'm saying? Just like Abraham, he did. He was doing what he was doing with Isaac. He was about to sack. He was about to kill. He was about to kill Isaac. But then the last minute, the Most High gonna put the lamb in the bush. There you go. You know, just seeing if you
Right.
are you gonna walk in obedience? Are you gonna prove to me that you love me by your actions? And that's what it's about. Because and even to the point where we have to grow in the mindset to where we willing to die for it. You know what I mean? But also knowing and dealing in the mindset of the will of the Most High, understanding whatever happens is the will of the Most High, and having faith that He got us no matter what happens. And that's my mentality. And I don't have a hopeless mentality of if something go down, then I'm just gonna die or whatever. But I got a mentality of
I'm gonna be all
what
right.
exactly whatever shall happen, I'm gonna be all right. Whether it be the Most High, He helped me escape certain things, or He allowed me to fall to certain things. But I'm trying to either way. When I go, I'm trying to make that resurrection, that first resurrection, and I'm gonna be
I,
good.
man,
You stand fast and do
Exactly.
your trial.
You guys watched the you guys watched that movie that was about Noah?
mm-mm.
Uh
I haven't seen it.
Man, what's the name of it, Noah? Now it was a cool scene in that
No.
movie where Noah's father, his father was like he was separate from everybody. He was like living in the caves and stuff, and then Noah went to visit his father and tell him about the flood and everything. But he was just chilling. He kind of accepted the fact that he was gonna die. And I don't know how accurate this is in the word, but I like this depiction that they made in the movie to where he accepted it that he was ready to go, but all he wanted was a blueberry. And that he made a point of just saying, he had lived this full life. He just wanted a blueberry one last time. And funny, like later in the movie, when the water started going down and it's heavily flooding and the waves are just washing over the earth, he ended up looking in like some bushes for some blueberry, looking in the ground, looking in the ground, looking in the ground. And like a few seconds before the wave hit him, he found a blueberry. He ate the blueberry, and then he got washed away. But just just having the mindset of like accepting like his mentality, he wasn't scared to go. Or even they depicted him like he wasn't with the rest of the world, like he wasn't in sin, But how he accepted his fate and he was ready to be with the Father.
And that goes into what we just read as well, talking about, being in your perfect works, lacking in nothing. And that reminds me what we talked about, the Bible study we did, where we ain't record that one, but I was just kind of loosely saying, like, even with like parents and stuff, your parents sit up there and they'll worry and be like, oh, how you gonna do this and that, or you're not gonna be young forever and this and that, and they think that they got all this worry that you about to go down some type of path where you don't be nothing or whatever it is. And the whole time, that whole concept, that worry that they be trying to put on you is like foreign, because it's like you don't got no worry. You know that the Most High, that that you're with the Most High. He um you focus on the kingdom, everything is gonna be added unto you. So it's like you lacking when you don't feel like you lacking anything, and other people try to project
Exactly.
that and try to make it seem like you are lacking something. That's one of the moments where, and everything is coming full circle. That's one of the moments where you slow to speak. You slow to speak. You just listen, because it's like I can't go back and forth with you on that. I can't sit up there and expect you to understand the things of the spirit, because that's not the frequency you on. So so when they get to doing their yapping, it's just like, okay, I'm just like listening. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I'm not, and before that used to get to me. It was a pride thing. It used to get to me. It's like, bro, like why is you acting like this, or why is you, or why, like, I feel like I gotta defend my honor, because it's like you basically trying to imply that, like, I'm some type of scrub, or I'm just not on nothing and this and that, when it's works being done behind the scenes. That's the stuff they don't appreciate. Doing spiritual works, doing, working on yourself, giving praise to the Most High, being clean from certain sins for vast amounts of time. It's like that's the unspoken stuff. That's stuff that they don't see. They don't see you, doing a Bible study and mediating the people and all of that type
Bro,
of stuff.
that's powerful, because it's like you said, they don't see what you're doing. They don't see the work that you're putting in. They don't see how you're building yourself for the Father. They don't even see how you grow, how you're growing as a person. All they see is all they see is in face value, or they might not even see that. They might see the past you, be like, you ain't changed. I don't had so many
Yeah,
people try to put me in the box like I'm just the same person, when I've known that, when I know that I'm growing, when I know that I'm elevating as a person, and I'm
yeah.
receiving the blessings of the Most High. And yeah, that's
And
that's powerful there.
that's a trick of the devil, because when I think about it, they tend to do that when you are elevating. Like, you could be right, in the middle of elevation, in the elevation season, and then here they come. Well, you got to do this and that. Why? You're not, like, trying to put worry on you, trying to trick you out your blessings, make you feel like you ain't you ain't putting in no type of work, or like everything you doing is for nothing, or whatever. And again, that's demonic possession. Satan as a roaring lion seeking who he may devour. And if he can't get to you, he gonna use whoever he can. And he don't take days off. So it's like you can expect him to jump into your spiritually weak, parents, friends, family, whatever, to try to get under your skin and knock you off your course. But like I said, that's just what comes with the territory. So most definitely, if you're anybody that's out there, going through that, just understand that's just, you charge to this part of the game. And everything, and again, everything is coming full circle. So that's how the spirit is moving, and that's going to, this chapter. So, our praises.
Our praises Most High. Letter of James, chapter 2, the sin of partiality. My brothers, show no partiality as you hold the faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory. For if a man wearing a gold ring and fine clothes comes to your assembly, and a poor man in shabby clothes also comes in, and if you pay attention to one who wears the fine clothing and say, you sit here in a good place, while you say to the poor man, you stand over there, or sit down at my feet. Have you not then made distinctions among yourselves, become judges with evil thoughts? Listen, my beloved brothers, has not God chosen those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom, which he has promised to those who love him? But you have dishonored the poor man. Are not the rich the ones who oppress you, the ones who drag you into court? Are they not the ones who blaspheme the honorable name by which you were called? If you really fulfill the royal law, my fault, you want to say something?
No, well, it's just definitely a lot of parallels we see, like this, the stuff we definitely see in today, and that kind of go into what it started off going into what pretty much what I was just saying as well, as far as people not seeing seeing the spiritual works, or not even necessarily they're not seeing the spiritual works, but them not understanding that when you got the Most High, you understand that all of this stuff, your situation can change overnight, like in a snap of a finger. He could just be like, "Well, it's your time," and you can easily go from being poor to rich, whether that's in a worldly sense or in something, in goods, whatever it is. We seen him do that. We seen him do that time and time again. With he loves the underdog. He liked when people count that person out who's serving him behind the scenes, and not being boastful about it or whatever, and they just doing the work and the will of the Father behind the scenes. Those are the people that he loved to vindicate in front of everybody that doubted and wanted to scrutinize and all of that. So that's pretty much it. Yep.
What did I leave off on? What's my
You said, I think that was, did they blast? No, it was, I think it was at 10 or
verse 8, I think. Yeah.
8.
All right. Chapter 2, verse 8. If you really fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. You are doing well. But if you show partiality, you are committing sin and are convicted by the law as a transgressor. For whoever keeps the whole law but fails to one part has become guilty of all of it. For he who said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not commit murder. If you do not commit adultery but do murder, you have been a transgressor of the law. So speak and so act as those who are to be judged under the law of liberty. For judgment is without mercy to one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment.
Yeah, we talked about that before too. Ain't nobody did a perfect run except Christ. So it's like,
who is you to judge?
Yeah,
when you got flaws, you done sin.
But it's even like it's like it's if you understand that we all fighting this war, then you're not gonna be quick to just judge somebody like regarding of like just condemning someone because you're guilty of sin too. Therefore, you could have been gone too if it weren't for the Most High's mercy. You would have been if you would have died in your sin, you would have been sent to the lake of fire too. So it's like, who are you to condemn somebody and then cancel out in your mind, oh, they're not gonna make it when you was the same way at one point. So it's like if you still alive, you got some type of chance of redemption. You know, it's just the fact that most people are not gonna take that advantage. Take that opportunity. I mean, but it's like I look at myself in the past and be like, man, if it weren't for the Most High's mercy, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have grown. I wouldn't even have had the confidence and to believe in myself. If I just got straight condemned, I would have condemned myself if it wasn't for the mercy of the Most High. I wouldn't have had the mindset of the Father's showing me grace. He still got faith in me, and I still got an opportunity to grow, to change. I would have counted myself out. So it's like that's why I don't count others out. You know, at the same time having discernment to understand that everybody don't want it, but it's not it's not gonna be my position to send you to hell. You know what I mean? And all I can do is plant seeds. All I can do is I'm gonna be a light. I'm gonna let my light shine before men. So you can see my good work so that I may glorify the Father. So that others may glorify the Father in that. So that's what it's about. And that goes into like a lot of people can discern like the judgment of wrong and right versus just judgment of like condemning someone. Because in a sense, we are supposed to judge wrong and right. Like it says, the righteous shall judge all things. But it's not our place to condemn others, to judge them in that sense, to where be like, oh yeah, you did this, or you ain't gonna make it.
It's from a space of you want them to better themselves.
Exactly. And that's out of love.
Yeah.
Just like the Father had mercy and love on you. So yeah, man.
Right.
James chapter 2, verse 14, the header is faith without works is dead. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says, yes, faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, one of you says to them, go in peace, be warm and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone would say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. You believe that God is one? You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. Do you want to be shown, you foolish person, that faith apart from works is useless? Was not Abraham, our father, justified by his works when he offered up his son Isaac on the altar? You see that the faith was active along with his works, and faith was complete by his works. And then the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness, and he was called a friend of God. You see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone. And in the same way, was not also Rahab, the prostitute, justified by the works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? For as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. It's one whole.
I wanted to so this the faith without works is dead scripture. That's one of the OG scriptures that brought me into the faith. It was yeah, that was one of the first ones I remember. It was like because I wanted to. That's when I was kind of like not calling out the hypocrisy of like churches and stuff, and I was realizing that the church was teaching people wrong, essentially, because everybody was pretty much operating strictly on faith without any kind of work behind it. And at that time, I'm like, okay, in my head, I'm like, the works is the law. So I was like, okay, if you just going to church and you just jumping around singing and you ain't even trying to follow no laws, it's like you ain't putting in no works. But yeah, I wanted to say that first. But then one thing I think about who was the prophet? I think it was Ezekiel. I'm not sure, but who was the prophet that went to the widow and she made him her last bit of bread? And I think that was Enoch. Nah, was it Enoch? And he resurrected her son or revived her son.
Uh, I'm not sure. I can try to find it. Let me see.
Yeah, let me see who. I think it was Enoch. The widow's son and the Elijah. I knew it was Elijah. That was Elijah. That's what I think about for sure. When it come to faith, if y'all don't know that story, basically Elijah, he was he was living like outside of I believe it was Israel at the time, but he was living outside of the kingdom or whatever, or outside of Babylon. It was one of them places, and he was basically surviving kind of like off grid. Like it was famine coming to Israel, I think, and they was gonna lose their water supply basically, like it was gonna dry up. But he had water. The Most High sent him to a place where he had I forget what it's called, but he was living by a stream where he had water, and then he had birds that would bring him food. And he ended up, but the water ended up eventually drying up that he was getting supplied off of. And the Most High told him to go and go to a widow. He told him to go to a different kingdom. I forget the kingdom name, but he told him to go to the kingdom. And he said, near the entrance, he was gonna find a widow, and she was saying she was gonna feed him or whatever. And he went there, and he's saying that she was basically getting ready to die because she only had enough like I forget what that stuff is they use to make the bread, but she only had yeah, like that and like the oil and stuff. She only had enough to make like one serving of bread, and that was gonna be for her and her son to split, and that was gonna pretty much be the last of their food. And he had showed up, and he basically told her like, let me have this bread or whatever. And she pretty much long story short, she pretty much ended up giving it to him, even though it was her last serving. And he was telling her like, God was gonna look out, basically. And she rolled the dice and just did it. And let this complete stranger had the last of her bread. And then they went to sleep and they woke up. And then her jars, like her pots or whatever, that she was keeping the oil and stuff in the dough or whatever, they woke up and it was full. And they had enough the next few years. Like they had basically a huge supply of it. But that was a powerful faith moment where it was like, she basically rolled the dice on a stranger and was like, well, you said God said to get this to you, I'ma just do it. And then, that was just something I thought of. And then, it even went even further in that story. where her son ended up getting sick and dying. And the lady was like, she was heartbroken, and obviously, and he was staying. Elijah was staying with them for a while at that point, and he was heartbroken, and she was kind of like cursing him, like in a way. She was like, you sat up there. She was like, is this my punishment for basically I mean what she said, but yeah, she was like, is this like punishment? And he had took the boy and went upstairs. He took the boy, went upstairs, laid him down, and then he just broke down crying. And then he basically begged God to bring the boy back. And God did it. And that was, I forget what story was that? That's the Book of Kings, if anybody y'all want to check that out. But yeah, it was that was just a crazy story I ended up seeing not too a few days ago. But yeah, no, and even as far as like Abraham being the father of the faith, he wasn't just he wasn't just stagnant and full of faith. Like he was doing plenty. He was doing a bunch of works. He the reason we even got inherited the gifts that we got now through his faith. He was rebelling against everybody. Rebelled against his father. Connect just brought up him basically destroying all of the altars that his father was serving. And he was kind of telling them like, how can you serve these things that how can you serve these inanimate objects, these things, and not the God who created heaven and earth? And he pretty much had bounties on him, all sorts of stuff. And he was moving around, and when God told him to basically move, he moved. Long story short, with all of these stories that I had in common, when God say do something, you pretty much you do it. He tell you to make a move, you got to make a move, even if your eyes can't see the vision. Like it don't make sense. Like with the story with Elijah, like it don't make sense to sit up there. It probably didn't make sense to him at the time to go to the house of a single mother and her child, and you thinking you about to get food, and they only got enough food for one person. It's like it ain't gonna make sense in the moment, but it's not meant to, and that's where the works come in. At it ain't gonna make sense at first, where it's like, okay, well, why do I got to sit up there and I don't know, not let's just say pork, for example. Like, why do I got to sit up here and not eat pork? It might not make sense. You be like, bacon's so good, it goes so good on everything. Pepperoni on that pizza, that's like, they go hand in hand. They thick as thieves. It's like how it don't make sense to not eat this. But then in the long run, everybody got high blood pressure and extra meat on their arms that hang below their elbows. Is like, that's just an example, but things ain't gonna make sense in the moment. But when the Most High say, do something, you just simply got to do it, and it's always for our benefit. So, that's the power in actually doing the work behind the faith, and not just believing, but doing.
Like I said, it makes one whole.
Yeah. But where you leave off? I bet.
Letter of James, Book 3. The header for it is Taming the Tongue. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. For we all stumble in many ways. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his own body. If we put bits into his mouth, in the mouths of the horses so that they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also, though they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are guided by a very small rubber rudder wheel. rudder wherever the wheel of the pilot directs. Let me reread that. If we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. Though they are large and are driven by strong winds, they are guided by the very small rudder, wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is small, members, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And the tongue is a fire, a word of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it, we bless our Lord and Father, and with it, we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth comes blessings and curses. My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening, both fresh and salt water? Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can fresh salt salt pond yield fresh water.
I want to mention real quick with the tongue and how is mentioned, how it's worded here. Like it's crazy when you really think about it. Like it talk about the tongue just being untamable, and it really is. Like you can sit up there and start a war through what you say to somebody, or you can cause world peace off what you saying. It's just like it's interesting to think about. You know, the tongue is like they say life or death is in the tongue, and they say the tongue is a sword. It's like you really can't control what nobody says, and so much can happen just off of the things that come out of somebody's mouth. It's interesting, you know. It's an interesting thing for sure.
I just think back to earlier. It said the Lord. Let me find it real quick.
Yep.
Oh, it says in verse 1 in James 18, of his own will he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we should be kind of his first fruits of his creatures. He brought forth with the word, meaning he spoke it. He spoke that into existence. Just like that.
Yeah. That's going to manifestation, all of that.
Yeah. From the power of the tongue. And it say be slow to speak. And slow to anger.
Yep, for that very reason. As soon as if you sit up there and lash out out of anger and you just get the running at the mouth, you can put yourself in. You could you could literally put yourself in a whole war just off of what you say. So
I just think back, to times when I could have, held my tongue and could have saved myself from situations, or other people could have held their tongue. Could have saved them from other situations.
No, for real. Sure, we used to sit up there.
Yeah.
They like the dang on lunch table in middle school.
Oh, yeah.
Used to sit up there and just crack jokes and just say wild stuff, talk about people all day.
Yeah, the egregious things was said.
Right. It's like at any moment, if it was, I think like if it was a different scenario, like we was different people or, different people, different scenario, somebody could have, died. Like obviously, somebody could have been like, man, this is my last straw. I'm about to load up, shoot this dang on school up or something. And I know exactly who I'm going for. That's
a real life situation. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm sure that's happened. Like, so you gotta know.
Now that you bring that up, actually like a story regarding like a sitting talking. So Isaiah, whatever. Remember the joke I had started or whatever about him being a Smeagol or whatever.
Right.
So about that, that would always ate at me. So when I ended up seeing him when we ended up gathering one of the times, for one of the things y'all was doing, I apologize to him. I think it's for y'all was doing the dinner. I think it was for Jordan at that one restaurant. Yeah. I ended up pulling him to the side and told him I'm sorry for that. I know, because I don't know what he was going through at the time, but Isaiah did not like that. That was not nice at all. That was very, very messed up.
Yeah, that was real. I remember he went home one day off of that.
Yep.
And yeah. Shout out to Isaiah. That's
right there.
Yeah.
Wisdom from above. Verse 13. Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but it's earthly, unspiritual, demonic. Where jealousy and selfish ambition exists, there will be disorder in every vile practice. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who would make peace. Warning against worldliness. What causes quarrel and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and you do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask, do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. You are darkness people. Do you not? You can start.
Sorry.
You good?
No, that's fire right there. So we talk about let's say, from whence come wars and fightings among you, come they not hence even of your lust that war in your members. Okay, here we go. Say ye lust and have not yet ye kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. Ye fight war, yea ye not, because ye ask not. So, your translation kind of made that a little more clear, but it's like you sit up there and you covet what somebody else got. Like you covet somebody having a better car or a bigger house or a colder female, whatever it is, and because you want what that person got, now you acting out of body, doing wild stuff for something.
Relationships just for that,
right? Just for something that you want out of sin, and then the thing is, you could have those things, but you asking for it for the wrong reasons. You not even necessarily saying, yeah, the thing is you can have those things. You can have some of those things, but the thing is you want it for the wrong reasons and you ain't even asking right. You just want to please your flesh. And it say, let me see. So this version it say, ye lust and have not, ye kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. Ye fight and war, yet ye have not, because ye ask not. And that's another thing. People don't even try to ask God for the things that they want. They just, well, I gotta get it by my own way. I gotta sit up there and sell drugs. I gotta crap. I gotta scam, rob, whatever it is. But none of these people that's doing all of this wild stuff to get to the quote unquote next level or make it up in the world, like what's the likelihood that any of these people just stopped and just actually prayed for the things that they want, or they just try to be obedient to God and again just simply ask him for it because he's the one that literally controls everything. It's like, wow, Why sit up there and try to take matters in your own hands and not just ask for the Most High to give you these things when these are all in His control? Like everything is in His control. So that was kind of always even my logic. I can say always, but for the most part, that pretty much was my logic most of my life. Is like, well, if God controls everything, why would I not sit up there and just ask Him for it? It's like it says, ye ask not. It says, you war and fight, yet you have not because ye ask not. And that's just simple as day. And it says, ye ask and receive not because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lust. And then it's like the people who is asking and they don't get it, they ain't receiving it because you asking for the wrong reasons. You asking to fulfill lust. You asking to fulfill your carnal flesh.
Yeah, for sin.
Right. It says, ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is the enmity of God, enmity with God. So, and that's another thing, people want these things, the fast cars, the fine IG models and all of this type of stuff. And all of this stuff is of the world. And that's enmity with God. Whoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. And that goes to the scripture where it's about the world will love his own. Like the persecution that the righteous deal with, the persecution that we got to go through, of having unpopular opinions, being cast out by friends and family, pretty much being ostracized and all of that type of stuff. Not being overlooked. This is just on a personal tip. I always kind of felt like since I was young, like I used to kind of be bitter because I felt like girls would like overlook me in a way. It'd be like, just not basically being on their radar. And they will always love to gravitate towards, the in my head, I'm like, these the popular dumb niggas. And it's like, bro, I've always felt like I'm a good, decent guy. Like, how come nobody ain't no female attention gravitating over here like that? And the thing is, it's all spiritual. The world love its own. So you really gotta count it all joy when you ain't gotta when the Most High is basically separating you from people who wouldn't even treat you right, or who wouldn't have your best interests at heart, or who would just pretty much just use you for the wrong reasons. Like those women, they gravitate towards the quote unquote popular dumb niggas because they trying to pretty they know where they fit in at. The devil know where he belong. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna sit up there. They got spirits on them. They gravitate towards the spirits that's similar to them. And they gravitate towards who they know they can use. That's another thing. A lot of the times women know it's a spiritual thing. They know who they can use and take advantage of, and they know who is, kind of beyond that.
And won't put up with them.
Right. So they're gonna stay away. They're gonna stay away from that. So you just trying to say something?
Yeah, like now I was just gonna say my personal experience with that. Um, like that's why a lot of people don't deal with me. Cause even at a young age, it's like it doesn't matter if you mama or grandma, or whatever. If you wrong, you wrong. We supposed to call out wrong. That's
Yeah.
how we letting our light shine upon men. You know what I mean? Not allowing wrong to just exist, and then we get with the program. We're not submitting to wickedness just because we supposed to be having respect of persons from somebody. So it's like that's why a lot of people can't really stand me, and they'll take it as disrespect when I'm just telling you what the word of God say. You know,
Don't care. And
and yeah, it be
I,
then You can go ahead.
No, I just gonna say I started getting it over time. Like at first, it bothered me. It bothered me a great deal of my life. Actually, like I probably say elementary, middle school, and not so much. By high school, I started getting it. I started kind of understanding it a little bit, but not fully having a full cognitive grasp on it. Really now, I feel like I'm at like my peak of understanding it. Like I got a coworker. This dude is a chick magnet. Like he just exists, and I just see them gravitate. But this dude also told me he told me he don't know how many bodies he got. He was talking about, he said he's well off in the thousands, basically, at 35.
Yeah.
So, I'm like, that's crazy. But then when I see kind of like how chicks interact with him, and we both knew, and I'm just seeing them gravitate every day, or people, asking me like, who is that? Woo woo woo. And it's funny because the old me, I was thinking about this. The old me would feel like some envy to that. Like damn, bro, like you really got all these chicks. It's really this easy for you. Woo 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 woo. And now, I'm just like, I'm kind of like I just find it kind of interesting. I'm like, okay, that's just who you is. That's just that's your battle. I told him that, myself. I'm like, that's your battle.
I sound like a headache.
You got to sit up there and deal with females just always gravitating towards you. And, he told me he had some close calls. And this is something I didn't even really think about, but he was saying he had close calls. And it was chicks that was trying to mess with him that was underage, like really throwing themselves at him. And, and I was like, and that's probably how a lot of dudes get caught up. Luckily he was able to get out those situations, but a lot of dudes don't get out those situations. And it's like that chick magnet stuff is like it don't gravitate. I mean, not gravitate, it don't discriminate with age. So it was just one of them things where I'm like, that's your battle. And that's your battle. You gotta get out of, smashing all these chicks, even though they throwing themselves at you or whatever. And again, like the old me probably would have been envious, but now I'm just like, I ain't gonna say I think it's cool, but it's just more so like I don't really have those same type of emotions towards it. Cause I just understand me, and I understand kind of like the program I run. So I get it. It's like if I was a woman that's playing on the other side, I'd stay away from me too. I'd stay far away from somebody like me because I wouldn't be able to have my way. It just, it's just that simple. I don't want to be set up. I wouldn't want to be put in my place or told that I'm wrong for thinking this, or somebody trying to change, my lifestyle and all of this type of stuff. It's gonna take a special type of person to want to deal, to want to be with somebody like that. It's gonna take a special type of person who want to change to pretty much build with a person. So build with that person. So it's just like now I get it, and I appreciate the Most High for giving me that type of spirit where it's like, okay, I can repel a lot of the BS, and when something do gravitate, it's not coming in such a volume to where it's like I gotta discern this one, discern that one, discern that one. It's like, okay, I can focus, put my energy here, focus and see what's what. If it makes sense, okay, cool. If not, then it don't. But it is dope because I don't gotta waste too much time. And I can only imagine how much time would have been wasted if I had to sit up there and deal with getting women gravitating towards me in high volumes and stuff like that. So
keep you off your path.
Exactly. And it's a distraction. End of the day, it's a distraction, and you wanna limit those as much as you can. So, all praises. Because everything that happens is for the good of the saints. So it's just like Can't even sit up there and act like I'm that same person where it's like, man, I want this, and that. Like, no, that's not how it's meant. That's not how it's meant to go down. And I'm glad. I praise. I'm glad I was able to find the peace in that, because that used to torment me. I ain't gonna lie. That used to really torment me. Like, bro, where's the hoes? Like, I really was on that.
He said, I'm hit like that. No.
Right. I'm thinking I'm chopped. I'm like, bro, maybe I'm just chopped. But then I knew I wasn't chopped. That was another thing. I really never thought I was chopped. Like, I was I'm decent looking guy. Like, why? What's wrong? What's going on?
Yeah, so, I'd be like, I didn't get the update or something.
Right. I'm like,
be the most high man. He be protecting, bro.
Yeah, that's his protection.
You got to learn this to anybody out there. Just know it's spiritual. Everything happened in spiritual before it manifested in the physical. They didn't even see. They felt your spirit before they seen your face. Like, know that. And your angels, your guardian angels, they probably got stuff on them. Your guardian angels probably had to smack some of them demons. And they was like, you know what? We ain't going, all right, we stand away from that.
Over there. He toting that heavy stuff, Yeah.
For real.
All right. James chapter 4, we on verse 4. You adulterous people, do you not know the friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Do you suppose it is to no purpose that the scripture says, he yearns jealously over the spirit that he has made to dwell within us? But he gives more grace. Therefore, it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, your sins, and purify your hearts. You double-minded, be wretched, and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to the mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourself before the Lord, and he will exalt you. Do not speak evil against one another. Brothers, the one who speaks against a brother or judges his brothers speaks evil against the law and judges the law. But if you judge the one lawgiver, no, hold on. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is only one lawgiver and judge, he who is able to save and to destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor? This goes back to show that we all fall short of the glory. You are not perfect. You haven't lived a perfect life. And there's only one perfect being, which is the Lord.
No.
Boasting about tomorrow. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow, we would go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are at the mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will and do this and that or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. Chapter 5. Warning to the rich. Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the misery that are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have corroded, and the corrosion will be the evidence against you, and will eat your flesh like fire. You have laid up treasure in the last days. Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you, and the cries of the harvest have reached the ears of the Lord. of hosts. You have lived on the earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts in the days of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the righteous person. He does not resist you. Patience and suffering. Be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmers wait for the precious fruits of the earth, being patient about it until it receives the early and late rain. You also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door, as an example of suffering and patience. Brothers, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Behold, we consider those blessings who remain steadfast. You have heard of the steadfastness of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. But above all, my brothers, do not swear either by the heavens or by the earth or by any other oath, but let your yeses be yes, and your no's be no, so that you may not fall under condemnation. Condemnation. I can't say that. My tongue is not. It's not working. It's not working.
Condemnation.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I want to add to that real quick since we there. Just for everybody out there, and this from experience. I'm sure other brothers can attest. When they say let your yays be your yays and your nays be your nays, that goes back into the double mindedness. You say, all right, I'm about to be done doing this, be done. If you say, all right, from my experience, it's typically bites me when it comes to that and like relationships. Like it's been plenty of times where, it's just being transparent as far as like females. I done told certain females, I'd be like, all right, we done. And I sit up there and break things off and then find myself gravitating back towards them out of just the flesh and and just wanting to still deal with them, whatever. But that's typically when, you get bit. That's when you get bit in your butt. Cause it's like when you say no, they thinking you saying no. Or you saying it's over, they think it's over. Like when it comes to women, they really go through those moments. When you tell them it's over, they live through that, and they feel all of the emotions of it being over. So it's like once they go through their phases of grief or whatever, and it being over in their head, all right, it's really over. And when you double back, you get into that double mindedness. You ain't moving in your full authority, and she sees that. She's gonna see that moment of you not being in your masculine frame because it's like your word ain't your bond. You just told her that it was toast, and then next thing you know, you back. So it's like, nah, how could she respect you when you clearly don't respect yourself and what you say? And that's where Satan got wiggle room to operate in whatever that situation is y'all got going on. I just wanted to put that PSA out because, like I said, I experienced this myself multiple times. With people, you sit up there and you say one thing and then you go back on it, and it never ends well in those situations. So it's just like when you say something, you just stand on it, no matter what feelings you feel. And that's where you go into being slow to speak. Is everything coming back full circle? Being slow to speak. If you really didn't feel that way, you jumped the gun and you made a quick decision and you warred with your tongue. You made war with your tongue by saying something that you really didn't feel, and you didn't give yourself enough time to think on it. Well, you got to live with the consequences of that. because you spoke it out your mouth. Life or death is in the tongue. So if you spoke death on the situation and it dies, you can't be mad that it died and now you trying to resurrect it. It's already dead. You killed it. So, that's just something everybody could take with them. Just if you say something, you got to stand on it,
Keep your
regardless of
word.
what it come with. Exactly. And if that wasn't what you meant, then now next time be slow to speak. Really think on certain things before you make certain decisions. Because once you make that decision, you can't go back on it.
You lie in the bed that you make.
Okay.
All right, verse 13. The prayer of faith. Is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone cheerful? Let him sing praise. Is anyone among you sick? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith will save the one who is sick, and the Lord will raise him up. If he has committed sins, he will be forgiven. Therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another, that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person has great power as it is working. Elijah was a man with a nature like ours. He prayed fervently that it might not rain, and for 3 years and 6 months it did not rain on the earth. Then he prayed again, and heaven gave rain, and the earth bore its fruits. My brothers, if anyone among you wanders from the truth, and someone brings him back, let him know that whoever brings back a sinner from his wandering will save his soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins.
Hmm. That's
Yeah,
James.
it's James right there.
Oh, praise. That was my first time going through James, but it's crazy how many times I done pulled from James.
Powerful book.
No. Yeah. I
It's
feel
Yes.
like actually that actually tends to happen with a lot of the books in the Bible. Find
They all
myself
connect.
quoting a lot of different things over the last few years. And then when you read it, you'll be like, oh, here, this is where this is at. This is the home of this scripture. But yeah.
I find it, I recall these things better when I read them out loud. It feels more real for me. I feel it better, the connection. And I guess that goes into the power of the tongue.
Hey, for real. I tend to think that too. It's like when I'm reading scriptures by myself, I'll be like, I'll randomly snap and be like, let me read this out loud. But yeah, it's definitely the best, when you sit up there in these type of settings where, iron can sharpen iron, and everybody can build off of each other.
It's supposed to be like we're supposed to be motivating one another. We all soldiers in the same war. We
Hey, the war
ultimately the
already won.
people. Ultimately the people who fighting these battles that you're fighting, man, and who are genuinely seeking the Father and living
Mhm.
to receive salvation, them your real brothers and sisters. You know, so that's why I
Yeah.
appreciate you, brothers, and it's always a blessing to be, in your presence in a way. And iron sharpen iron, so it's highly appreciated. And I say, man, keep fighting the
Thank
good
you.
fight. You know, for real, like we are really chosen by the Most High, and bro, we got a great future. The blessings that we gonna receive for fighting this war, for staying, patient, having long sufferance, being in obedience, man, it's gonna be beyond worth it, to where we can't even really comprehend the blessings, or the word says, no eyes have seen, no, nor ears have heard what the Most High has for the people who love Him. So
No doubt.
It's
I,
like
I, to that, I find myself thinking sometimes too. Like I remember thinking at a point, earlier in the faith, like I was like, man, I want it'd just be a thought that crossed my mind. I'd be like, man, I've been sitting up there obedient for this amount of time. Like, where are these blessings at? But then when you sit up there, you really learn who the Most High is, and you read in the scriptures, and you seeing all of these stories and how he came through, like with Abraham, even though I'm just talking about Elijah. Really, in most of the cases, like God never was on some timing where people was getting vindicated, like on some quick stuff. Like these people, you really had to be tried.
Yeah, gotta be
Like like you really had to be tried. And when he blessed in abundance. And it's like you can't sit up there and expect these type of blessings to just fall out the sky. And really, I wasn't even
You shouldn't
expecting
be
it,
expecting blessings.
no doubt. And the thing is, he really in the type of blessings that you think that you want or whatever, which is just like little lifestyle changes, like at first I'm thinking like, okay, again, like worldly stuff, like okay, better car, bigger house, whatever. But it's like the type of stuff that the Most High was blessing with was beyond that. Like with Abraham, like he gave Abraham like a whole royal lineage that was gonna go for centuries and centuries. And Abraham didn't even have a child until he was like what, in his 80s.
Yeah, it's late.
Yeah, so it's like you can't put the Most High in a box. Like the things like when we say the things that we're gonna be blessed with is beyond our belief. I truly believe that, just off of seeing how the Most High actually operate. Is like, nah, you thinking small if you're trying to just, oh, I just want a bigger house, or I just want to this and that. Like
No,
that's small.
our Lord too
And
great for that.
the things that's coming is just, again, we ain't even gonna be able to imagine it. We just gotta continue to stay the course, and everything is gonna be added unto us. And then having, again, we talk about life or death in the tongue. You gotta speak it, and you gotta keep speaking it. And then again, faith without works is dead. So you gotta keep doing the work. We gotta keep doing the work and make it until it's a reality. It ain't nothing wrong with challenging the Most High, and being like, okay, your words say this, so I'm gonna do this. And and just going by, let's just see, just going by that, let's see what happened. It all aligns.
And speaking on works, do y'all know like what scriptures and like what are the works of the Lord to do for the Lord?
um uh
Or
specifics.
I'm assuming it's across the whole book in general, but
Yeah, that's what I think. It's like the works, all type of examples of works. It's like doing right. That's the works. So you can't say that you love God or that you have faith in God without putting in the work to show that you love God. You get what I'm saying?
This is a
Like
work.
exactly. The works is doing right. The works is building what want to helping your brother out. Loving the Most High with all your mind, your heart, your soul. Like the word says, fasting, or even the word says, study to show yourself approved. That's work. You know.
That was one of the main ones I believed was works when I was first seeing it. I mentioned following the law, but the works was a big one at that time for me too. Was just reading the Bible, because that's another thing a lot of people just simply don't do. A lot of people just go to church, like I said, they go in there, hoop and holler, sing and dance, and then they ain't never even really read the Bible on their own time and without their pastor telling them, go here. Yeah, go here. We gonna read this. Let me spoon feed you these couple scriptures before we go to this next song. Right. And or let me, we gonna go to these couple scriptures. I'm gonna just talk about these 5 scriptures for about an hour, and then y'all go home and that's it. A lot of people don't actually peel the book open and go line upon line, precept upon precept, and try to actually, learn who God is. Like I believe that's true works. Just trying to learn and understand who the Most High is. And again, like Connect said, building with your brothers, loving your brothers as you will love yourself, and just basically it.
It's
That's
all
pretty
through.
much the work.
Thank you for sharing that.
It's all throughout the book. If I had to say specifics, it's all throughout the book. But it says, I would direct people to just to get the meat of the matter, like the book of Ecclesiastes. I think that's how you say it. The last chapter where it says, the whole duty of man is to fear God and follow His commandments. That's work. Or even Matthew 22, verse 37 through 39, where we just read earlier, talking about the great commandments. That's work.
All right, I wrote that down for me to
Yes.
read.
Yes, but that's the works. Overall, like you said, bro, he said, on these two hang all the law and the prophets. So the whole book, the whole meat of the matter, the order of Melchizedek, the prophets, the doctrine of Christ,
I'm meaning
even
to ask you. My fault. You can finish. I ask you afterwards.
oh no, just saying that, bro, that is what God, that's how you become perfect, by doing His will. And His will is that you will love Him with all your mind, your heart, your soul, and love others as you love yourself. It's that simple. It's a challenge. It's hard. It's
It's hard to love somebody who's holding the blade at you sometimes, right?
exactly, it's hard to love God with all your mind, your heart, your soul, in a world filled with wickedness, in a world that's opposing everything that God promotes. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a challenge, but that's what is simple though. That's the simplicity of Christ. So where we're not just, we can focus on the intents of our heart versus focusing on traditions or making a burnt sacrifice or just judging somebody else. How about we transform ourselves to be something that's pleasing in the eyes of the Most High? That's what it's about, and it's a challenge. It's simple, but it's possible. I mean, it's simple, but it's a challenge, and it's possible that we can seek perfection. It's required. That's what the word
Yeah,
says.
yeah.
And again, and one thing you said that was pivotal is when you say loving God with your mind, your heart, your soul is in a world that's doing everything that's against God, fighting that flesh, fighting that temptation is the work, and that's where you get into overcoming sin, man. A work, part of the works. You sit up there, I think about this like because one of the struggles with one of the struggles being the lust thing is like you sit up there and think like, damn, like why, like not necessarily cursing God or nothing like that, but you just think like, damn, you really got to sit up there like it's really these women out here all on social media in the real world looking phenomenal, all of these worldly things like that you like, damn, like she looking right, shape right, all of this stuff, and it's like, damn, she really evil, and I gotta stay away from this. And it just be that. Then it'd be like the not to say, I ain't even gonna sugarcoat it, call it what it is. Out of 1,000 men, it was only one out of 1,000 women we have yet not found. Most of them is evil. Most of humans is gonna be evil for real. But with them, they ratios is a bit higher than ours. So it's like the vast majority that you see is gonna be more than likely playing for the left hand side.
I wanna put it out there. I'm gonna just say it, bro. A woman finds righteousness through a man of the Most High, bro. Like it's that's clearly stated through the Bible. The hierarchy that God is the head of Christ. Christ is the head of man. Man is the head of woman. If it ain't no man of Christ in a woman life that's facilitating Christ, the word of Christ to her, 9 times out of 10, yeah, she is gonna be on wicked timing because there's nobody there. It's no shield there. It's no. Satan went after the woman first for a reason because she's the weaker vessel. So if you don't have no type of man facilitating the word in your life, Satan gonna be on your head all day as a woman. So
And you're gonna
you
be
know,
giving in.
and I think we need to take that scripture like we be wanting to you know people be wanting to nitpick and be like, well, not everybody, not it. I think that scripture is quite literal. Like out of 1,000 men, I found one righteous. Out of 1,000 women, I found none. That means that's 0%.
But that means we don't even know. It could be 2,000, 3,000, 4, 5,000. We don't even know the ratios.
And it's
And the
and
scriptures
I
also say clear as day that the woman is saved through childbearing. So it's just you know
yeah, and to clear up, because people will get to being this some misogynist and all this type of stuff. I'm not saying there's not no women out there with potential, but usually a lot of the women out there with massive potentials, they had good leadership, good fatherhood in their life, good
Has some type of
male
head.
male. Yeah, they had some type of head. Without no head, it's just imagine if we didn't have Christ.
yeah.
Before Christ came and died for the sins of man, you know what I mean? It was very rare for a man to be walking with God like completely. And we know that by the stories in the Old Testament and how Israel and Jerusalem and all them places even fell.
Right. Imagine that's a good point. Imagine yourself. Imagine us without Christ and where we would be. Like
Yeah.
without that word, we like just call it what it is.
Call a spade a
We would
spade.
yeah, we would have been wilding. We would have been wilding. Still probably, we would have been out here living what's reprobated. We would have been reprobated. I think to myself before I had the scriptures, high school, watching corn, beating off and all of this stuff multiple times, and pridefully like this is the way. Like and whole time is sin, right? So us without Christ and without the word, we know we would have been cooked. So we got to just like you said, we just got to keep that same energy on all fronts. Like the women without their head, you're more than likely cooked. If you ain't got a head, you cooked. So in bringing that full circle, it's like, man, you seeing all these women who look good, but everything with that glitters ain't gold. That's the pill that's being swallowed right now. It's like it is what it is. These chicks, yeah, they gonna look good, but inside they evil. And then again, I was thinking like, man, the game is really rigged to where, and the game is really rigged to where it's like, damn, you got these creatures that's in your face, and you want to sit up there and act on the flesh and do all of this other type of stuff, but it's like you can't. But that's a work. That's you
Mm.
doing the work. That's you protecting your eye gates. you sit up there seeing thirst traps on Instagram and all of that type of stuff, and you hit the not interested. This makes me uncomfortable. I had to clean my feed out the other day because I realized, like, dang, every time I get on this dang on app, it's cheeks on the screen in some facet. So I had to start saying, yeah, I had to start hitting those three dots. Not interested. This makes me uncomfortable. And then before I knew it, it really only took 5 minutes of doing that before I didn't see not a female on my feed again. So it's just like
the sin stops when we nip the trigger in the bud. A lot of the time, when it comes to people trying to come to their repentance, they'd still be they'd be halfway in, halfway out, kind of holding on to certain stuff. Like, no, you have to, like me personally, I put a VPN on my phone to block all adult websites. And I put a lock on that app. And I had somebody else put the code in so I cannot access that app. You have to really make it to where, like, oh, I can't do this, because if it is a moment where you feel like, dang, I want to slip and do this, then there you go. You get into that vibe, and you be like, all right, bet I'm gonna entertain this spirit. Yeah. And then boom, the blocker pop up, and then that what's that? That's your reminder. That's like, yeah, God had you set this for this reason, and now you don't have access to that no more. It's nothing you can do. So and I want to give my testimony on even that. You wouldn't believe how hard it was for me to find a method to actually really block that type of stuff off of my phone, like finding the app without having to pay like $50 a month. The one I have to pay. So it's like, and it's worth the money if it's worth the money. I'm not gonna lie, but all in all, like, it just goes to show, like, it's kids watching this stuff and whatnot and being influenced by this stuff. And so it's like, you would think it would be a way easier way for parents to even block that stuff from their kids and whatnot, but they make it so hard, and you got to wonder why, because that's what Satan wants to be pushed.
Easy, one that easily accessible. Are you 18? Yes, in there. Like, it's sick.
diabolical. Cause it's like, and even like I think about fast. The song that I wrote, it reminds me of it, because it's like looking at the world, and it's not just with just it's like with everything wrong with the world. It's like, man, if there was a button I could press to just delete all these websites and stuff, I wouldn't hesitate to press it. You know what I mean? But it's like
Man.
the Most High. Like, even I had to come to the fact that, where even like my family, if there was something I could do right away, in the drop of a dime, in the speed of light, if it was something I could do to change my family, to get them to love the Most High, to submit to the Spirit, I would. But it's like accepting the fact that I can only change myself, and I'm going to have to go through this and suffer. I'm going to have to actually transform myself, to the point where I I'm detached from this thing that was a stronghold, and at any means possible, I got to detach myself from this. You know what I mean? So it's like, even like with the websites and stuff, because yeah, I've been through the same thing with getting blockers and stuff. I mean, one time I'm trying to block it so fast, I ain't paying no attention. I blocked my home phone. But yeah, just like, yeah, it's a battle, man. And but it's necessary, and that's the biggest thing. It's like, some people use that excuse. Well, if God clearly cared about us, it wouldn't be this hard, or it wouldn't be like this. He wouldn't allow this evil. No, it's all necessary, because it's all a test, and He's preparing and trying the hearts of men to see who's going to be worthy to be part of his kingdom. You get what I'm saying? Who's going to transform, who's going to earn, not to say that we earn it, because we don't earn it after our own works, but who is going to become a new creature? Who's going to transform, you know? But yeah, man, it's definitely a war that we
No
win.
doubt. Real. Conquer or be conquered.
Exactly.
Joe,
Exactly.
Who want to do the closing out statements?
Yes, sir.
yeah. Or you want to take us out? Connect. Close the video.
All right. I say all praises to the Most High for unless Jay, what if you brothers want to say one last thing.
Oh yeah, I just say, I wasn't here much for this episode, but I still made the effort of being here where I could, so give my input. I'm gonna go watch the whole thing on playback, to hear what the other brothers said. But I know it was amazing edification going on in here. I had actually previously, before this Bible study, read the book of James, so I know a lot of what was most likely talked about. But I just want to say, peace and blessings to the audience, and share this with people. Man, people need this type of stuff, like, and to all the women out there, you know to all the men and the women out there, I just want this to, resonate with y'all. Hopefully it resonate with y'all. We gotta bow our knee. We not bigger than the program. Men, bow your knee and be subservient and let Christ be your head. Don't do nothing without praying and asking God first, especially if you're uncertain. And women, be on patrol to sit up here and find you a man that's on that timing, because we out here to save souls. It's bigger than us. It's more after this life that we experience. And this is the tutorial, bruh. And it's an everlasting life after this. And we not doing this specifically to get everlasting life, but it's just beauty in actually loving God. The whole point of this walk is not to be blessed, to because we want to have blessings, because we want to see prosperity, because we want to get to the kingdom. It's just because it's a relationship with God, and God has done so much for us, even created us, and He loved us that much. It's only right that we reciprocate that, and after that reciprocation of love, all of that stuff will come. He promised that. So, you know, keep your mind on the love of Christ and loving the Most High with all your heart. And that's my closing sentiments.
And I want to touch on one last thing that you said about the woman. It's like I think this get misconstrued a lot too. The thought of that you have to rush to get a husband for you to have a head, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that it should be a man or a brother that is genuinely following Christ and that he has fruits to back that up. Whether it be, a brother or, whether it be somebody that just, that's speaking the gospel on the app or whatever, but not to lean to your own understanding or to even rush into a relationship in hopes that you can change a man, or hopes that you can transform him, or hopes that you can be the reason that he submits to Christ. I say that no, be led by the Spirit of the Most High, and if you operate in obedience, He's gonna give you that wise counsel no matter what. Even if it's not time for you to be in a relationship. Cause shoot, I mean, that's what He did to me regarding wise counsel. You know what I mean? Me being young and me seeking out the face of the Father. I done been introduced to certain people, or whether it be on platforms or in person or whatever, I've been introduced to people who had the Spirit of the Most High on them, and I'm eating the meat and spitting out the bones. if you get what I'm saying. So it's like have discretion and yeah, submit to a righteous man, submit to the word of the Most High, and you're gonna receive that word and that understanding from 9 times out of 10 from somebody that's operating, from a man that's operating under that spirit. Just like we have to be in the word so we can receive the spirit of Christ, so that we can be examples of the word. You know what I'm saying? So that we can be heads in man in that fashion. That's our responsibility. And in general, it's a man's responsibility to handle that business so that we can be there for our future wives, or you know what I mean. Like we got to be on our stuff so that we can elevate, and that the timing of the Most High can, things can fall in place. So I just wanted to say that because I hear a lot of people making excuses, like they a lot of people just hop in relationships and be like, oh well, I, the thinking that they can just transform or change somebody's heart. But it's like, nah, you don't gotta rush in a relationship when the man ain't right.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely get you somebody that's not even necessarily get you somebody, but gravitate towards somebody who you feel has the spirit, and like I said, got the fruits.
Exactly.
Because it's wicked out here. Satan is going, nothing is new under the sun. Satan ain't changing up the formula. If he know he can easily get a woman to get out of body, then he's gonna keep on going for the women. So
Exactly.
when we say the things that we say, this is not coming out of place of misogyny or wanting to be superior or nothing like that. This is out of genuine love for y'all's well-being and y'all souls. And it's like we just see the patterns. We just see the word and got the discernment to understand, like, you ain't, like Jay was saying, you ain't bigger than the program. None of us is bigger than the program. If we understand we gotta submit to Christ every day, otherwise Satan is gonna come in and wreak havoc in our lives. Then we understand that he gonna do the same thing to y'all if y'all ain't got a head. So that's all it is. That's all it is to it. So it might come off brash sometimes, or it might come off a certain way because you ain't used to hearing this type of talk. But trust and believe, we our intentions are pure with this.
And let me add this. The last thing I'm gonna add, and as a woman, just think about this for all the women listening. If you offended by men talking like this, you really got it's like I said, it's about being humble and meek. And you had to really step back and ask, why am I offended by that? It's because a lot of the times when people speaking in the matter of truth, that the saying goes, the truth hurts. Like, it's not, the truth is hard to digest sometimes. So it's like, the thing about the truth is, if you have somebody that come into your life, right, and they start telling you, the bad characteristics about yourself, it's not gonna feel good. You're gonna be offended, because you want to know why? Because and the reason you're getting offended is because and somewhere deep down inside, you have to change. This is true. We don't get, you think about it. If anybody ever came to you and they accused you of something that was a lie, you know, in most cases, it's no reason for you to get offended unless you just care what people think. But if you somebody that don't necessarily care what people think, I know anytime somebody just accused me of a straight lie, I'd be like, all right, bro, bet. Like real talk.
Right.
So yeah, that's the last thing I'm gonna chime in with, man. But that's pivotal.
So,
I just want to give y'all fellas thanks as always. Thank you, Rodney and Connect. Help me out throughout the whole thing. I found myself stumbling.
Hey, likewise, bro. Hey, praise the Most High for your presence, man. And we all
For real.
being heads of we all being vessels of the Spirit of Christ. So we all get it's only right that we all get to bring forth the word because we're all vessels, and Christ is all of our heads. So it's not, it's never on that. You're just as capable as I am, bro, because of Christ.
Absolutely. And um, congratulations, man, to leading the Bible study, man. I know, especially when it's your first time doing stuff like this, it can be nerve wracking. But from what I heard so far, you was doing a good job. So
That's all.
like for everybody, for all of us, stay in the word, man. And we gonna continue to level up every time we read the word, and we helping people understand it and all that. We speaking life and speaking God. We leveling up. Literally, we getting our XP. We getting our reps in. So
No doubt. Just leveling up. Like I said, as far as Keon, you set up there, it's ain't like it's funny how the spirit moved. And you took us to James, and a lot of the things we talked about today, they said it came full circle on the stuff we talked about last week and the week before. And that's just been like a common trend where it's like everywhere we've been going, it's just been it's all been relevant, and it's all been relevant and at the right time. So, like I said, that's your power that brought us here. So, all praise.
Praise the Most High.
praise connect you next week, man.
Yes, sir. I haven't fully decided what book we gonna get in, but I got a couple ideas.
Let it be a surprise.
Yeah, man. Hey, but all praises to the Most High. You brothers,
You
done.
better you gotta get your pods back on, man.
Almost definitely. You want to get back on, so we down for that. I can bring him on, and I think he wanted to add more on that on the Melchizedek end also. He wanted to touch on.
That's what I meant to ask you.
You said what it was?
I'm gonna let you close out, then I'm gonna ask you afterwards.
Okay. Well, yeah. There's been another edition of the gathering. All praises to the Most High. That we able to come together and to build and to be in the presence of the Father, or the Father being in our presence through us, iron, sharpening each other, and submitting to His will and reading His Word, and giving Him and glorifying in that and rejoicing in that. So, hey, praise the Most High for the opportunity. Thank the Father for another Sabbath, and uh, keeping faith. May the Most High be with each and every one of you brothers, and likewise the people who are watching the playback. Hey, yeah, man. So, hey, all praise to the Most High. Peace and blessings.
All praise.
All praises.